Elijah, no? Elijah Eugenio is a second-year BA Speech Communication major who has wanted to be a doctor his whole life. He is also a theater kid, a choir kid, someone who was homeschooled until he went to senior high school, someone who can't get his head out of the clouds when it comes to thinking about future possibilities. And last but not the least, the most hopeless romantic you'll ever come across. Elijah graduated from the Ateneo de Manila Senior High School 2 years ago and transferred to UP Diliman from UP Baguio just last year. Palakpakan natin si Elijah.
What if everyone decided who they are instead of who they're going to be? Have you ever been in a situation in your life where you had to sacrifice something in the name of your future? We're told from the very start of our lives that we only really have value in this society when we grow older. A common saying here in the Philippines is that children should be seen, not heard. Bata ka pa lang, so tumahimik ka lang. As a result, it can feel like because we're young, we don't have anything valuable to say. Additionally, we're told that we can only really start to contribute to the society when we've started working. The whole way our school system is structured discourages us from being able to fully enjoy ourselves until we've graduated. There's a study conducted in 2019 by Michaela Pasco that showed that depression rates in students were on the rise even before the pandemic. And the reason why is because there are so many more academic stressors present now than there were back then. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because it can feel like the trajectory of our entire lives is based upon how we perform as children before we even have a chance to develop many essential life skills. We need to get into a good school we need to get good grades in order to get into a good school. We need to graduate from a good school in order to get a good job. And we need a good job in order to make enough money to live a good life. Because of this, effectively, the weight of the rest of our lives is placed upon our shoulders as mere children. So of course, it's only natural that we do have to sacrifice for our future sometimes. But when does it end? There's always another assignment due beyond the horizon. There's always another exam to prepare for. That family trip can wait. You can spend time with your friends a different time, and you may have to break up with your current partner because you simply don't have time to spend with them anymore. We are conditioned to always put school first. We are conditioned to always put school first so that we can live happily when we're finally working. But before you know it, years have gone by, and all those relationships that you built in the past have faded. And all the times that you could have spent with the people that you love are squandered. We need to work for the future because we're fighting to have a good life. But because of the breakneck pace that life goes at, we often tend to lose sight of the things that we're fighting for in the first place. One prime example of this is families where the parents can't be there for their child because they're working. And yes, it's important for the parents to secure the future for their child, but the child's only going to remember all the times that the parent wasn't there. They're only going to remember all of the missed graduations, all the missed birthday parties, and all the times that they needed a shoulder to cry on, but their parent wasn't there. It's important to recognize that while there is a need for money, there's also an equally important need for your family to be whole, because if it's not, then that comes with its own psychological and emotional problems in the future. I recognize that being able to not work is a privilege for many families, but a parent's first priority should always be to the well-being of their children. And at the very least, we should all be able to recognize when someone we love needs us to spend time with them, and when we need to be able to set aside time for them, whether that means that we have to sacrifice some of our sleep or take a sick leave or something. At the very least, the parents should recognize that they should take extra care to be there for birthdays or special events or graduations, and be emotionally available for their child when the child really needs it, because that child won't be a child forever. There needs to be a balance between the work that you do for the future and the time that you spend in the present. Another example of this is my best friend, who was forced to be a STEM kid all of her life, when in reality her real passion was in music. She spent so long making herself miserable, trying to uphold that image of herself as a doctor in the future, just so that she could make her parents happy. But eventually she realized that she could no longer uphold that image because it was actively harming herself. Ultimately, she chose to follow her real passions in music, despite going against her parents' wishes and losing all financial and emotional support from them. Ultimately, she followed that, and even if she did lose that, she did it because she needed to be true to herself and not neglect her current needs. And of course, I have to recognize my own context in this situation. I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 2 years old, and I've been taking steps my whole life to make that dream happen. When I applied to Ateneo, I applied to be in the STEM strand, but I ended up in general academics. When I applied for UP, I applied to be in a science course, but I ended up being sent to communications in Baguio. When I tried to transfer back here, I tried to be in a science course again, but this time I ended up in speech comm. Over the past few years, I've learned that life does not always go the way that you think it will, but life does always go the way that it should go, and that everything works out in the end. I still do want to become a doctor, but now whatever job I have is secondary to my pursuit of happiness and closeness and love. Instead of killing myself in a science course, I just decided to continue in the course that I'm in and take science tutoring on the side so that I can actually enjoy learning. The future isn't set. We can plan all we want, but life will always get in the way of those plans. What we think we need at a certain point in our lives may change based on how we grow and develop. We tend to hold on to the idea that we need certain things because we focus on only one specific outcome, neglecting what it is that we actually need in the first place. It could be in a relationship that you hold on to because you tell yourself, yes, I am going to be with that person for sure in the future, or I need this person in my life to be happy. It could be something like a dream that you had as a child that you're still pursuing even if you may not really want to pursue it anymore. Or it could even be the idea that you should always listen to your family because they know what's best for you. It's okay to recognize that our needs change as we grow. And we should never hyperfixate on one strict possibility because then we're just boxing ourselves in, not allowing ourselves to realize our full potentials, not allowing ourselves to fully be happy. The only certainty of life is that it's uncertain, it's ever-changing, and so we need to be able to be flexible as well. We shouldn't go out of our way to make ourselves miserable just to pursue something we think we want, drowning ourselves in what we see as worthy pursuits, all the while forgetting what makes life worth living in the first place. We need to make time for our friends, our family, and our passions. We need to be able to appreciate the little things in life without fussing too much about the consequences of the future. Because when we neglect our current needs, we are, in effect, depriving ourselves of the right to be happy. It can be scary to step out of our comfort zones. We stick with what we know because it's safe, it's predictable, it's something we can always fall back on when the going gets rough and life gets uncertain. So we stick to the status quo, ironically, caging ourselves, preventing ourselves from being who we really want to be. Well, I'm here to tell you that we weren't made to be put in boxes, not even by ourselves. We all have the free will to decide who we are. You have the agency to decide what you can and can't do, and no one can tell you otherwise. You decide what you're capable of, you decide what's important to you, you decide at this very moment. And you continue to make that decision of who you are for the rest of your life. When we look toward the future, it's important to remember that we are here, physically, right now, that we need to be present in the present. And we shouldn't worry too much about how our lives are going to go. Instead, we should go and live it, and find the things that make life worth living. You can be who you are right at this very moment, and at the very least, you'll be honest with yourself. And me? My name is Eugenio, and I've decided that I am someone who lives for love. The love of his friends, the love of his family, the love of God, and the hope that one day I can find a love of my own with someone special and start my own family. That's what I live for. So what if everyone decided who they are instead of who they're going to be? And let me ask you, what do you live for? What do you choose to be? Whoever it is that you are, whoever you choose to be, go and live your life. Live for what makes you, you. Now, being the theater kid that I am, I would like to end with an excerpt from a song. It's about someone realizing what's really important to them in their lives, and the resolve that he gets and the commitment that he feels when he realizes this. From now on, these eyes will not be blinded by the lights. And from now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. It starts tonight, and let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now